your immediate reaction?
Clearly, obviously, we're really disappointed with the result and performance-wise. I don't think I've been involved in a game where virtually every mistake we made got punished, and that's the level. It's the highest level of our modern football, and we get punished for that. So we could have been better. We could have been better with the ball. But I think the early goals going down 3-1, 4-1 early seemed to spook us a little bit. We didn't play with the same confidence. And obviously they were playing at a high level. So second half, the guys showed great spirit. We had more possession of the ball and took greater risk with the ball in terms of looking to create. But ultimately, we were beaten by a much better team.
With hindsight, was there anything you might do differently with the setup? You said you were looking for balance. You didn't quite find that. Is there a way you have to adapt more to these kind of games in Europe?
Well, no, listen, we'll assess it and look back afterwards. We wanted to press the game, but we also, like you say, we wanted to be in balance and be tight and compact. But there was too many times whenever we ran out of the position at the wrong moment, the wrong time, weren't quite in the compact shape, and then obviously top players punish you, and that was something certainly that we'll look at for the coming games.
Was there a reason you think that maybe the game sort of got away with you, particularly in that first half, where you couldn't sort of rein back into the balance that you wanted? Was it just the fact that the goals were early and spooked your players and maybe the confidence went, or is there more of a bigger issue?
No, I think it was exactly that. I think we got punished for giving the...
Was Brendan Rodgers about to say we got ripped apart? Because we did. We got ripped apart. I've always said, and you can go back and check the videos, I said Brendan Rodgers will be judged. Brendan Rodgers will be judged on his European run. Scottish football's too easy for Brendan Rodgers. And it's too easy for the money that Celtic have to spend in Scottish football. There's no real challenge there. And people will say that's disrespectful to the league. And Rangers fans will say, well, you should have won treble after treble after treble when they weren't in the league. It's funny because we went round and we've won many trebles since Rangers have been in the league. So sit down, shut up and don't talk. And when it comes to it, Brendan Rodgers tactically got away wrong last night. I said in the live before the game, if Brendan Rodgers goes with, instead of the three in midfield, if he pulls the two wingers back into the midfield, so it's more a flat five, it would give us a fantastic chance because of the speed that we've got to hit Dortmund on the break. It didn't happen. Brendan Rodgers went for the same formation, and for me, it was tactically inept. There is no defender in the way that we played last night. We couldn't play out from the back. We tried to play the nice little football that we play in Scotland, play it quicker on the back. But when you've got a team sitting on top of you, and Brendan Rodgers says he will not change the system, he will not sit back, which is fine and fair enough. But you have to, and even the Germans are saying they were surprised with the tactically inept Celtic that they got last night. They thought that Celtic were a good tactical team. They've never seen us in Europe, have they?
The ball away. We needed to have longer spells with the ball. We were too rushed, I felt, in the first half to try and get the ball forward. We know we have pace, but we had to have the ball for longer periods. And once we arrived into their half, we were looking for that killer pass. I felt too early.
What do you mean when we got into their half? We hardly got into their half, Brendan. It wasn't good to watch, and I think it shows, even though we went out and spent some fantastic money this summer and we still made a profit and on player sales, which the board I'll gladly talk about next year. And they'll talk about that. They'll say that, it's been a fantastic year. We played in the Champions League, but we've won the league again, and et cetera, et cetera. But Brendan Rodgers will be judged. And I'm not going to get overly excited about one result in Europe, because let's face it, this team got to the Champions League last season, the Champions League final. And they're going to get to the later rounds of the Champions League again. They will be in and around the last 4 of the Champions League. Let's not forget that. I think that they played fantastic football last night. And Celtic we all know that Celtic are Champions League ready level. I think a lot of fans have been getting a little bit carried away with some optimism over the last couple of days.
And then obviously from that, you're just constantly giving the ball away, so you're chasing the ball. And obviously their front line is so fast, so direct, and they have real big quality, and they punished us in the first half for that.
That's what we do to teams in Scottish football, Brendan. They did exactly to us what we do to teams in Scottish football on a week-to-week basis. And to think that we could go in against a team like we did last night and play it in and around the back. Sometimes, I mean, I've seen Schmeichel do a long ball now and again just to give us some breathing space, but he never done that last night. There was no long balls just to get up the park. They were trying to pass it out past a good team who were sitting camped in on top of us. They were sitting camped in on top of us. They weren't letting us play out from the back, and that's what good teams do. We do it in Scottish football. They did it to us last night. Horses for courses. It's a different level stuff. So let's not be too disjointed this morning. We need to make sure that we back this team to the hilt, because we've still got a lot of trophies to win at home, and domestically that's where ultimately it is. Is it good enough to just turn up? And look, this team, that Dortmund team, are going to do that to a lot of teams they did to us last night. They're going to do that to more teams in the Champions League. Just be thankful this morning that we don't have to play them in a return leg due to the new format of the Champions League. So that's one good thing I think we could say together.
You say you'll go away and look at it. We talked to Callum McGregor and he says the players will learn from this, but I suppose Celtic fans will want to know why this keeps happening. It happened in Madrid. Yeah. It's happened at Paris Saint-Germain twice, Barcelona. Yep. Is there a reason why these big defeats keep happening in the big games in Europe?
Yeah. It's exactly the teams you just mentioned. Barcelona, Real Madrid.
But do you have to adapt again, though, to play these big teams? Will you adapt in the future?
Well, we always have to adapt, but sometimes the quality just breaks through that. So, are we going to sit in and camp and wait? No, we won't do that. We play a way that allows us domestically to dominate.
Domestically, Brendan, you cannot play the same way domestically as you play in Europe. That's over the years that we've watched Celtic. There's been many managers that have tried to play the same way that domestically and play the same way in Europe, and it shows a tactical inadequacy of the manager to think that we can go to Europe. And okay, people will say, well, look at the first result in the Champions League. Yeah, that was fine. It was at Celtic Park and it was fine. It was a fantastic result. But when you're up against quality, and Brendan Rodgers has spoke about it many times, quality in the last third, the final ball, when you're up against real quality, their front line costs £200 million. £200 million. Our squad doesn't cost £200 million.
We know it's going to be difficult at times for us to do that, but we still have to show our ability with the ball. And I thought that tonight we weren't anywhere near that level. We just gave it away too easily, and then obviously we then get punished from that. And we had a penalty in the first half. We had two penalties in the first half. We had from a corner, direct corner, guy scores an unbelievable goal from outside the box. So before we know it, we were 4-1 down. So and clearly that can affect your confidence. But I was proud of the players' second half. We kept fighting, kept our spirit up, and like I say, we'll be very disappointed with the performance. It's the first time that we've had this losing feeling for a long time. But you have to learn from it and move on.
It may be a long time, Brendan, but it's always the Champions League, and Celtic fans are getting a bit fed up of it. But what do we do? There's a question for you, Celtic fans. What do we do? We've brought in what we thought was an elite level manager, and yes, he is. He's been there and done it with big teams. But I mean, it's Scottish football. Let's just face facts. There's not a lot that, and people across the set go, but we got to a final in the Europa. Europa's completely different. That mob across the city were also registered as the worst team ever to play in the Champions League. And at least we're not that. At least the goal difference this morning sits at only -2. That's one of the good things about this new Champions League format. And it's good because we scored a lot of goals in the first game. So don't be too disjointed just yet, even though we plummeted down that league last night in an unbelievable fashion to 19th position. There's one thing about the game last night. Jamie Gittins was talking about it after the game, and he was talking about the way that Celtic set up. So let's listen to him because it's interesting.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable game. They played really intense to defend us with a high press. But after the first 2 goals went in, it was quite easy to what's the word? Course through in a way. So yeah, it was a good game today. Yeah.
Getting the early goal, but more importantly, getting the second one. It was 94 seconds between the equaliser and going 2-1 up. How important was that period of the game?
Yeah, again, really important because they scored right after us. So bit of pressure on us to score again. So we've done that, and yeah, we won the game. So it's the most important thing today. Yeah.
Were you a bit surprised by how Celtic set up? Because the opening 20 minutes in particular was so open.
Yeah, they wanted to high press us. In a way, they done a good job in the first 5-10 minutes. But after this, we played better football. We started popping it around the back and into pockets and spaces, and we turned and got the goal. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard life, isn't it? Playing for one of the top clubs in the world. Oh, my heart bleeds for you. Now, anybody that's been watching German football over the last couple of years will know that they've been picking up some of the youngest talent around the world. And who the hell is this young Jamie Gittins? Yes, he was born in 2004 and he holds dual nationality. He holds dual nationality of English and Barbados citizenship. He is a left winger. He plays on the left and the right. Cracking little guy who's currently valued at 28 million euros. 28 million euros. But where did he come from? Yes, he came through the Reading Youth Academy, and then he was picked up by Manchester City, of all teams. Picked up at Manchester City, and he left Manchester City on a free transfer in 2020 to go to Dortmund. And he's excelled, you could say, as a player. Yeah, excelled as a player. But the Germans have been picking up some of the best talent around Europe and taking them to Germany. All the German teams have been doing it because they know that they can take these young players, and it's where teams in Scotland and England, well, especially Scotland, we're not giving youth a chance. And it just shows you. The young guy, born only 20 years old, was picked up from the Man City Youth Academy, taken over to Germany, and thrived as a player. What can we learn from that? What can we learn from it? Celtic have been buying in players at 20-year-old. We spent 11 million on a 20-year-old player. But it just shows you that the academy is where it works, and we need to do something better. And this is not making any excuses for Brendan Rodgers and the team's performance last night, but it just shows you there's a lot of work still to be done at Celtic. We might be flying high in the top of the league with Aberdeen hot on our tails. We might still be in the cups, but when it comes to the Champions League level, we're still way off it. Does Scottish football help us? I don't think so. Dortmund played their game on Friday night, so it means that they got a full day rest on Saturday and Sunday. Celtic played Saturday evening, all for television, because the people that run the game in Scotland are weak. And that's the fact. That is the fact. It wasn't good to watch. Brendan Rodgers says that we will not do it. We're not going to sit in and camp and change. Neil Lennon urged Celtic to find another way of playing. There's not really a lot more you could say, is it? There isn't. I'd say have a good day, Celtic fans all around the world, but I know that we're probably not going to. I know that we're all hurting this morning. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon because it is only one game in the Champions League. It's a game before any game was played that we all knew that we didn't have a hope in hell in getting anything from. And it's transpired to be true. Let's just hope that we do more against the next away team that we go and visit. And then we come back and there's some classic games lined up at Celtic Park where we can take points. As it sits this morning, we are sitting 19th position in the Champions League this morning due to the goals that went in last night. If it had been a smaller scoreline, we would have been further up the league. It's as simple as that. But we are sitting on only -2 as we sit this morning. PSG are sitting on -1, who are sitting just above us. They are sitting on -1, who are sitting in 18th position. And then that's not too bad to be sitting just behind PSG. When you look at some teams, when you look at teams that we're going to be playing, Young Boys, they're sitting on -8 and they've lost their first 2 games. Slovan Bratislava, they're sitting on -8, also having lost their first 2 games. RB Salzburg, sitting on -7 goals, down in 34th position, having lost their first 2 games. I still say that we needed to win at least 3 games in this Champions League. It's still in Celtic's hands. Win 3 games and draw another one. Maybe even try and win 4 games. If we can win 3 games, I think it'd be an even a more realistic target. People saying that we need a minimum of 12 points to go through. I think if we win 3 games, it will be a semi-successful Champions League. You have to think of where we've come from over the last couple of seasons. You've got Milan sitting in 30th position, having lost 2 games. Girona are below us. Feyenoord. There's a lot of teams with big European experience sitting below us in the Champions League. Stuttgart, PSV, all sitting below Celtic this morning. So it doesn't look as bad as what we're maybe thinking. Although we did lose by an incredible scoreline, it's not too bad. So let's take the positives out of it. We're still in the competition. We've still got a chance to climb back up that table. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. That's all that matters. We're not going to win the Champions League. We're never going to win the Champions League. We don't have the money to compete at the other end of the Champions League when it gets to the money-making stage. But what we can do is we can put in better performances, and we expect Brendan Rodgers and the backroom staff to sit and analyse this game until they're black and blue. And they've got as sore as eyes as what we did, having to watch that last night. Anyway, see you in the next video.